In this video, I will be discussing something called the PDK process, and it's a generation process that is used in the chip industry. PDK stands for, here I mentioned it here, Process Design Kit. Okay. As you can see here, I have some images that show how the Process Design Kit works. So now, first of all, I'll start off with discussing what is the PDK. So the Process Design Kit, or PDK, it's a type of process that's used in the fabs. And remember, fabs are where chips are designed. And essentially what it does is it connects the design process of the chip to the manufacturing and eventually selling the chip to companies like DELL and Apple, that they later implement those chips into the computers. I'll get into that manufacturing process later in the video, but for now I'll focus mostly on what the PDK is and how it works. So first of all, PDK process, it has many parts to it. For example, a few of them are you have to state what the device models are, and whether it's a CMOS, FinFET device model, that kind of stuff. It's sort of like a calculator. You implement like different numbers essentially. In this case, it's not really numbers, but different data into the PDK, and then it gives like a simulation of what this kind of how this chip behaves and stuff like that. Other parts of the PDK process are, for example, you implement whether there are metal stacks in the design of the chip. You might have to also give the rules for the design structure of the chip. For example, there's DRC, which it just checks for the reliability of the chip, whether the chip is reliable and effective. There's also the LVS part of the design structure that verifies the chip if it's designed properly, designed how it's supposed to be designed essentially, or according to plan. So engineers do is they look into these different conditions, and then essentially they, as mentioned before, plug them into the PDK, sort of like into a calculator, and then they get different results based on that design process. Now I'll give like a bit more detailed overview of the PDK, and I'll describe how it's used in the chip industry specifically. So within the chip industry, foundries, for example, TSMC, for example, they make spice tools. They make like these spice analytics stuff. Spice is part of the PDK process. They make these spice simulations, and they do that. In order to do that, they have to give the model of the transistor, whether it's CMOS or FinFET. And then once they do that, then they can make the space simulations. And the reason they do the space simulations is because it's part of the PDK process. Once they do the whole PDK process, then they can get results on and analyze what the design is actually like of the chip, whether it's successful, unsuccessful, all of that. After that, once they've made the spice simulation, then there are many other steps after that. I'll summarize it here. So essentially, one of them could be something like P blocks. P blocks are essentially these like devices. They adjust the transistors to various environments and conditions. They essentially control how a transistor behaves under certain circumstances. So they plug in the specific circumstances, and the engineers do this. They plug in the circumstances, the different data for how the P blocks work, whether there are P blocks or there aren't P blocks in the chip, and then after that they put in other things. They input other things into the PDK process, such as timing, power, and the area of the chip as well. Area of the chip helps to decide if there will be noise in the chip or not. And then once they're done doing that, this is where I get to the conclusion. PDKs help to simulate real world behavior of the chip and to determine if it is ready and safe to manufacture, and sell it to companies like Dell and Apple that then use it use them in computers. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe.